Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP John Poz, and with me is the man, the myth, the Hannibal TV icon. Man, he's got over, I don't even know how much it is now. It's like 100 million views at least. He's got 250,000 subscribers. He's the former GNW World Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Hannibal TV himself, Devin Nicholson. Hannibal, how you doing today, sir?
Yeah, three-time Great North Wrestling Canadian
Yes.
champion, two-time WWC Puerto Rico Tag Team champion, and former IWA Puerto Rico Intercontinental champion, who I beat Ricky Banderas to win, who Ricky Banderas made his SWE Fury debut recently in a match that's on the Hannibal TV. So there you go.
Nice, good stuff. Yes, I forgot some of those accolades there. I know you dominated WWC for a while down there in Puerto Rico. How long ago was that?
2006.
Damn, that was
The last
wild.
time I wrestled for WWC was 2008 against Orlando Cologne. We went to a double count out or something.
Man, this feels like I don't know, like it feels like so long ago because you've been kind of so focused on doing like your interviews and Hannibal TV and stuff. It just feels like so long ago that like wrestling was your focus. Is your focus right now wrestling at all, or is there more Hannibal TV?
It's Hannibal TV and getting it bigger and better, and actually moving more towards MMA and real fighting as well. You're going to see a lot more fighter interviews, as people may have noticed over the past month. There's been a lot of fighter interviews recently, even an interview that you did with Rick Bassman and Josh Barnett that also aired on the Hannibal TV. And I'll say it, Rick Bassman's YouTube channel, since he never says it. There you go, Rick.
Yep, subscribe to that channel too. Yeah, why might as well not
His is ad
subscribe to
free, by
mine
the
too.
way.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, his is ad free. Is yours ad free? Two-man power trip
Nope,
of wrestling.
nope, got some ads on there.
Well, there you go. Help support John Poz. He's got, I don't know if he could even keep track anymore, 15 or more podcasts with
I'm losing
people
track.
like the Taskmaster, who I just in the last 24 hours posted 2 of your podcasts with the Taskmaster himself, who is now one of the matchmakers for SWE Fury, as well as a commentator for SWE Fury, which is quite interesting. But the NWO sold out 1998. And one that I liked in particular was Kevin talking about ECW.
Yes,
So
and Paul
check those
Heyman.
out.
Yes, yep, pretty cool stuff. And a lot of people may not know, but he helped bring Heyman into the business and basically got him a start. And was kind of Heyman's first mentor. We go into that as well, so it's really good stuff on that episode for sure.
Yes, and it's great that you're documenting history there. And he actually brought up his old school book that he actually said that he listened to my review on, and he read it himself, and he really liked the book. But it's actually a legendary wrestler that was involved with putting that book together. So I would suggest people read that old school wrestling book. It's on Amazon. It's kind of a I guess you could say it's like Tank Abbott's book. It's different names, but real situations, but under different names, so nobody can get sued, I guess.
I was going to ask you because he kept like guessing to me, kind of off there, like, oh, I think it's this guy. No, I think it's this guy. Like, so it is kind of you're almost like a guessing game where you think you know who it is, but it's a
Yeah.
real life person.
Yes, and it's funny because some of it you don't notice right away, and then as you're further reading, you read a story that you've heard directly off of a shoot interview, and you're like, oh, of course, this guy was this guy all along.
Yep.
So, anyways, I'm glad Kevin took my advice and read that book. It's called Old School, and it is on Amazon. One of these days, I'm gonna put out a book. I have started working on it. It's only in the early stages, and it will be continued more over the course of the summer.
What is it about?
My adventures in wrestling and journalism and legal situations and street brawling and arrests and all kinds of craziness. Girls.
Nice. I like it. Now, are you going to change the names to protect the innocent? Or are you going to go right after Abdul the Butcher?
No. This story is about me. It's my biography. So it's going to be quite something when it comes out.
You going to have some Abdul the Butcher stuff in there or what?
Who knows? Who knows? What a character. I'm sorry I ever had any association with him. But I did beat him up numerous times, at least I can say that, including pinning him in the middle of the ring in his retirement match in Montreal. Before a turn-away crowd, might I add.
Nice. I know, obviously, you guys had your issues there, and you're, I guess, 100% healed now and cleared. But, man, that was quite a story and a lawsuit and everything else involving him that I'm sure he hasn't even paid up on yet.
No, there's another lawsuit going on now involving fraudulent transfers he made to avoid paying them, which is illegal to make fraudulent transfers. You can't transfer or sell properties that you own after somebody wins a lawsuit against you to avoid having to pay what you owe. So lawsuits are very costly. That's one thing I've learned. At least I set the record straight on that situation, winning in Canada and the US that he transferred hepatitis C to me by cutting me with a blade with his infected blood on it. Knowing that that's a way that you transfer blood diseases, sharing razor blades. But yeah, that's a sad situation, but I overcame it. As we said, I got cured. Thank God there's cures now, very expensive cures. Superstar Billy Graham, a man you were asking me about off air, helped me get the second treatment that I took that got me cured. So I'm very grateful for that. And I've moved on. As you said, my life used to be all about wrestling. Now I'm a reporter and I have other interests, whether it be MMA, boxing, kickboxing, UFOs, the paranormal. I can report on all of it and make friends in multiple domains and not be controlled. So I'm happy that I moved on from all that.
That is good. And it's one of those things where I guess now he's in poor health. He's in a wheelchair and everything. Yeah, I guess he's not doing too good now. I know he's 80, but last I've heard, he's not doing
live with his wife. His wife hates him. He actually lives with somebody other than his wife, another female named Jocelyn Marshall, who was one of the people involved in the fraudulent transfer situation. It's interesting, though, that him and his wife are not yet divorced. Very interesting. But his own wife can't even stand him. Funny enough.
And I think the woman Jocelyn helps to be like his nurse and stuff, because I don't think he's in good enough health to take care of himself. So looking a little grim, I guess.
Who knows? But I don't have any sympathy for him.
Right.
Yeah, he's not as poor off as people might expect. He made a lot of money over the course of his career. He was actually one of the highest paid Americans in Japan around the time of him and Brody and Stan Hansen. They were making huge amount of money. So I don't feel bad for him, because to be that negligent is pretty terrible in a wrestling match. It's one thing to rough somebody up, but to actually put their lives at risk, that is beyond appropriate. But whatever, maybe he knows better than me because he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. So maybe I was taught the wrong way. Maybe you are supposed to actually put people's lives in danger through negligence in the ring. I guess he probably is in the WWE Hall of Fame, so maybe that's what you're supposed to do.
Now, as far as Superstar Billy Graham is concerned, just to change gears, how is he doing? How's his health?
Well, he's lost part of his feet due to diabetes, but I believe he has received his first shot for the COVID the vaccine, and yeah, he's hoping to get the second. He's stable, thanks to all the fans that donated to his GoFundMe. That really has helped him. He's been able to get good treatment. And I hope to be able to get another interview with him someday. Maybe after he turned back to Canada, I'll try and go up and see him. He wasn't in good enough health when I was in Phoenix last month, unfortunately. And I understand if he catches COVID, he would most certainly pass away. So I didn't push him for an interview or anything. Because we want him to remain alive as long as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of a dangerous situation. You'd love to get him on. I'm sure he'd do crazy numbers. He is superstar Billy Graham of the world, but obviously health comes first for sure. Is he kind of, I don't know, like not to say he's doing bad, but is he kind of like in good spirits? Is he like, how is he doing? Like,
Yeah, he's actually very strong mentally. He's a great, impressive survivor, in my opinion. And he isn't very. Hopefully, it'll come back there. Sorry, you lost me for a second.
Yep, you're back.
Okay. The hotel internet.
Yeah. So you were saying the mental state, he's doing good, though? He's very positive?
He's very positive. He keeps fighting forward. And yeah, it's just another chink in his armor.
I feel like he's one of those guys, obviously he's had his problems with WWE and stuff, but I don't know, he just doesn't get brought up enough to me. I mean, one of the biggest stars of all time, easily.
It's just sad that he's still mentally there and he could contribute. And one thing that I know has bothered him about WWE is they never use him for anything.
Yeah.
They have gone to Phoenix for major events, even when he was under Legends contract. They put out toys of him, but apparently he was on the banned Thunderdome list for some reason, which is just like, you're really going to ban one of the all-time greats from the Thunderdome, and you have a toy out of him at the same time. So it's too bad that they'll probably wait till he passes away to glorify him more. It's sad because he is mentally there and he has good advice. He has advised me on lots of things for about 10 years now since I've known him. And I really love him like a grandfather.
I feel like with him too, it's like they should go out there and film stuff with him. You know what I mean? Like just to get him on the documentaries, get him on the network, and get him on the channel. Like anything to get his name used out. They don't have like star power as far as that. I mean, they've interviewed Hogan and Flair a million times. Let's get Superstar in there. Let's get some other guys involved in some projects.
That's a good idea, and he does know a lot about the history of wrestling. It'd be good. He's still a great talker. He could get that stuff out there and they could come to him for that and just record wherever he lives or at a hotel nearby that's not on a second floor because his heart's not strong enough to climb stairs. But yeah, that'd be great. And he can critique promos and matches and have promo ideas too, but they're not going to do that, sadly.
Yep. I feel like also with him, does he ever talk about kind of like he should have been in that Backlund spot? Does he talk about that still?
Oh, God. Unfortunately, and I understand, unfortunately, yeah, that's a sad. That will eat him away, and it would eat anybody away because he was like about to explode. He had a gimmick that Hulk Hogan would ultimately pretty much take from him.
Right.
And he was like, you could hear it in that promo where he says it's pandemonium. You could hear that it's pandemonium. You don't hear reactions like that anymore. The crowd booing and cheering at the same time, stuff getting thrown around. And he was like strapped to a rocket ship about to like go off into outer space, and they switched it to Backlund. And then he didn't really take it the right way. he didn't go into like, oh, I'll show them, and like go into other companies and really try and show that he could outdraw Backlund or explode still in another way. At one point, not too long after, he actually went back to digging ditches and bouncing. He didn't even want to be in wrestling. So, but he's never been a glory person. He's and I've heard this from people I've interviewed. Even when he was champion, he never had a big head. You've seen some of these guys that have big heads. I've seen it, and he's very down to earth. So for him, it was no big deal to, okay, I'm going to go back from Madison Square Garden to digging ditches.
Yeah,
which
that's
is crazy.
strange. And it's interesting. He obviously was Hogan before Hogan was Hogan. And like, why go to Backlund there if you even have him and then he turns babyface? Then, I mean, you figure it's going to be huge business. Not that Backlund was terrible business, but it wasn't as good as business anywhere near Hogan level. And it wasn't anywhere near Bruno level either. So, and it probably wasn't even Pedro Morales level, but like they could have had something there. And it's weird that Vince Sr. didn't do that. Does he talk about why Vince Sr. wouldn't basically do it?
You're correct too. They did stack those Backlund cards apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Where I think Billy holds the most consecutive sellout records, 19 out of 20 as a main eventer. Not the most all time. Bruno has that, I believe, but the most in a row as a main eventer, which is crazy. And he even sold out after with the ninja gimmick that a lot of people put down. But did he ever talk about that? I think Billy was just depressed and wanted to have his mandatory return matches and get out of there.
Gotcha. So, as far as you yourself, though, when you're getting into the business, who was your trainer like, and how did you kind of break in?
I had I'm probably one of the few that have been trained by both the Rougeaus and the Harts, the two most famous wrestling families in Canada. I started at the very beginning with Matt Rats, which is a story in itself that we won't get into, but that was the promotion. Eric Bischoff, who you've interviewed, was involved with after WCW, only literally months after WCW closed. He was trying to start this with Ted Hart, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Tyson Kidd, Natalia, Rick Victor, a bunch of wrestlers, Rene Dupree, that went on to actually do well in wrestling. And I was part of it as well. But we just basically trained to have the match on the pilot. So I only had one match and I was only trained how to do that match. And it was not much training at all, very little. And then I ended up training with Jacques Rougeau for about a year and wrestling on his shows. But when I came back, Jacques had first of all, he put on events in front of like 4 to 5, sometimes as much as 9,000 fans. I think the last event he promoted had around 9,000 fans as well. But he only did like 3 or 4 events a year. And the matches were completely practiced. So I had been working for Jacques, actually thinking I was really good. And then I came back to visit Calgary, and Harry had got me a match on this Stampede show at a college in the afternoon, and I had to wrestle somebody for 20 minutes. And it was just purely called on the fly, and I realized, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just got beat up for 20 minutes. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to go train with the Hearts in the dungeon. But that's not to say that Jacques did not teach me. I'm not going to start singing because I'm in a hotel room, but he did teach me how to sing. He taught me a lot about the entertainment style of wrestling. I will not be like Kevin Owens and just bash him and say bad stuff about him, because he did teach me a lot. And no, Kevin Owens claims he trained me when I was training there. No, he did not train me at all. But yeah, no, Jacques, he just wasn't good at teaching people how to call matches on the fly and do like that realistic, hard-hitting style that Stampede Wrestling was known for. So that's when I went back and actually trained in the dungeon with Bruce Hart, and he was my main trainer there. Ross trained me a little bit too. Stu would still come down and watch from time to time and occasionally put people in holds, or if the ring was outside in the summer, they would usually wheel him to watch. So he was still around.
I just saw an awesome picture of Stu, and he was pretty old in the picture, stretching the hell out of Sabu. I was like, what an interesting picture. I forget who posted it. I apologize, but I was like, man, it was all awesome, awesome pictures of him just stretching guys. That would have been kind of cool to get stretched by Stu, actually.
Yeah, he never actually stretched me for some reason, but the way that Bruce was, he was very like punishing towards wrestlers. There was a lot of slaps in the face, a lot of chops, a lot of getting hit on the back in that training, and you're learning how to bump on gym mats on a cement floor. So that is, you learn how to bump properly. I find if you can bump on there, you can bump on anything. So it was good training, but definitely a little bit sadistic from Bruce. And then the people that had been through it before you want to punish you because they had to go through it. So
right,
it earned its name, the dungeon.
So what was like the first territory you worked at besides Jacques? Like once you kind of get more success, like where do you move on? Is that when you moved down to Puerto Rico, or you still were in Canada
no,
for
I
a
went
while?
to Stampede. I was in Stampede Wrestling.
Well, after Stampede, I mean, like, did you go down to Puerto Rico?
I actually did go to Puerto Rico after Stampede. Yeah, correct. But actually, I started to get known. I went back around, I traveled from Stampede back to my area of Canada, the eastern part of Canada, after I learned how to wrestle in Stampede. And I started to get noticed around that time because when I went back, I was clearly one of the best wrestlers in the area. Whereas in Stampede, there were so many great wrestlers. I didn't quite stand out as much because you had the Harry Smiths and the TJs who had been wrestling since they were kids. But yeah, then I went to Puerto Rico, and that's where I was given the name Hannibal by Bushwhacker Luke. And that's when I had a long run in Puerto Rico with IWA, then WWC.
And who kind of found you though? Like, how did they find you? Like, is it Bushwhacker Luke?
Luke
finds you and brings you in?
Yeah, Luke.
So how did he kind of get like known to you? Did somebody give him the heads up?
It's funny. I'll tell you a funny story that I haven't told before. Bruce liked to screw with people. For some reason, he gave me the name Kid Nichols in Stampede, even though I was always big, even though I started very young at 17. I always had like the body of a man, and my last name is Nicholson. So he just wanted to screw with me and be like, okay, here's a stupid name that you're not going to get over with. And I know what your last name really is, but I want everybody to call you Nichols instead of Nicholson. So anyways, I was always a baby face. And finally, Bruce says one night, okay, you're going to be heel, because it's clear I have more of a heel personality and I was going to be a good heel. And then when he gives me this elaborate plan to turn heel and like really go crazy and actually scare people. And I ended up scaring the son, who was a teenager, of the music people that did the music for Stampede Wrestling. So I ended up getting banned from Stampede Wrestling for like 3 months because
you're being a good heel.
Because I did the job. Yeah. But the funny thing is, that match I had sent to Puerto Rico as well as WWE, and I got WWE tryouts out of that match, and I got the Puerto Rico job out of that match. So, and that was against Randy Myers, who's now, he had some success in Defy. We wrestled each other a lot in those days, but it's just funny. I get banned from that match in Stampede, but it gets me noticed by other larger companies. But that was the way it went in those days. They were so cheap, and those people were doing the music for free that if they didn't punish me, they would lose their free DJ for. So Bruce pretended that he didn't tell me what to do, and I got in all the trouble for that. I think I had to apologize to everyone in the dressing room too when I came back.
I love
just following orders.
Yeah, and you're being a heel. I mean, come on, you got to do what you got to do to get over.
Yeah.
So you're down
that's
there.
How I got to Puerto Rico.
So you're down there in Puerto Rico. When are the WWE tryouts? Before you get signed, or like it's almost during, or it's almost the same time?
I actually started having them in 2004, and then they just continued on when I was in Puerto Rico. They always kept an eye on me.
So where do the tryouts actually happen at that point? Is it OVW or something?
No, it was before they had those week-long tryout camps, the thing that they do now. The first ones in 2004, they would just bring me to the events. And sometimes you would get matches.
So it would be like basically before the show, dark match, but they're keeping an eye on you, or they film it or whatever.
I only ever had two matches, one on SmackDown with Heidenreich and one with Eugene on Heat.
How did they go? How did the matches, you think, did they go?
They went well, both. They told me they went well. They said to keep calling and we'll keep bringing you back. And that was when Dreamer was in charge. And then when Nova, our old friend Nova, got in charge, he didn't like me. And then I never got any further. I was very close to getting it when Dreamer was in charge, because as I said, I never got any negative feedback. They just kept saying, keep coming back, because I had the look and everything. And then Nova, for some reason, gave me no tryouts for his time. And then as soon as Ty Bailey took over, who was the guy after Nova, I got pretty much signed. So Nova, you're a bad judge of talent.
Yes. Yes.
You didn't last in that job long either.
So basically, Ty Bailey, he brings you in, he signs you. What happens at that point?
That was when we went through the whole Hep C debacle.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
That was sad, because that's when I failed the medical. And it's like, surprise. You don't have the job that you've been wanting since you were a kid, and you've been working 8 years for, and you're 26, signing it like a good age. You're still like have tons of years ahead of you. But yeah, and not only that, but you have Hep C to deal with. So I went through a dark period there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's kind of cold on their parts. Like, not only you're not signed, you failed the thing. By the way, you have Hep C. Go figure it out on your own, right? I mean, that sucks.
Yeah, yeah, it sucked. Actually, the first doctor that called me to tell me I found out it was very stressful, because they called me first to tell me about the Hep C. So then I was just like, okay, this really sucks. But that doctor that I talked to had told me that he was not sure if the Hep C would affect me getting signed or not, because I don't know if they still had this or not. But at that time, they had a no blood policy where matches were supposed to be stopped if blood occurs by accident, and there was supposed to be no intentional bleeding. So that doctor, when I asked him if it would affect me, he didn't know. So then I still had some time there where I was thinking, okay, is there a chance I'm still going to have my job?
Right.
But yeah, I still knew in the back of my head that it was probably going to be no. But, you could imagine, like, that was a terrible time for sure.
Yeah, because it being, man, that's just like you get everything you want and it gets taken away from you because of the Hep C. I mean, that's awful.
You literally get in the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Man, yeah, that's just crazy. They say like before, like they find out that you failed the test. Do they say what they want to do with you, like your name? Are they gonna? Do they give you any sort of inkling of what you're gonna do?
The only thing that I was told is that I was Pat Patterson's favorite from the camp, and he was the one that wanted to get me hired, because I did get in a little, when I was signed. I was actually signed from a camp. They had started doing camps by that point, and I did get in a little skirmish at the camp. So it was like they
With
liked
who?
me enough that some idiot that didn't know how to wrestle that kept punching me in the ear.
Uh,
Yeah. So what happened was I was there. We were separated into three classes. There was like three rings at that time at FCW, and then in the one ring is where Pat was watching the matches, but he was going to leave at lunchtime. He was only staying for the first part of the day. So they wanted to show me for Pat. So they just walked. Coincidentally, it was Steve Kern,
oh
who I'm
wow,
interviewing this Saturday at
nice.
1 p.m. Eastern, which will be live for members of the Hannibal TV. But yeah, he just walked into the room. He said, "Okay, Hannibal, you," and he just pointed someone, "You go in there and have a match." And this guy kept blasting me in the ear. And at one point, I completely lost my hearing. Like I could not hear anything.
Wow.
And that just freaked me out. So as soon as the match was over, I at least was professional enough to finish the match. But I'm like, get the fuck out in the parking lot now. And I was like, I really wanted to fight him because I thought I had just lost my hearing for a minute. And I was like just fuming. So there was a whole situation. And then they actually told me after, they said, that they loved your match. They didn't even know there was an issue. And
Wow.
then you went and ruined it. And you created this whole situation. So then that's when Pat Patterson, it broke for lunch. And that's when he said, "Come with me." And he was having his smoke break because he smoked, as everyone knows.
Yep.
So he took me outside, and that's kind of when I knew I was going to get signed, because he took me outside and he was having a smoke, and we were walking around, and he was just like, you can't do that, right? He said, you could do that after, but he said, you're going to have a lot of heat. And I tried to explain it wasn't just because he was stiffing me, it's because I actually lost my hearing. And he said, we're going to give you another match after lunch with a better opponent, and I'm going to tell you the finish. And then he told me the finish, which, funny enough, he wanted me to pretend like I was mad at the guy after, again, as a rib on the agents. So yeah, and then the second match went perfectly. And then it was funny because he was supposed to leave at lunch, but he didn't leave at lunch. He waited for lunch to be over. He watched my match, which they made first, and then he left.
Wow. So he liked you a lot.
Yeah, he didn't even stay for any of the others. And before he left, he shook my hand. He said, "I hope you get a job. Good job." So yeah. So all I know is because Ty Bailey and Johnny Ace, when they hired me, they had mentioned to me that it was Pat Patterson that liked me. But it was funny also about Steve Kern. When I left the camp, he shook my hand and he said, "Don't worry, we're not going to pass along any of that incident to the office."
Nice.
And then the first thing that they brought up when they called me was, "What the hell happened?"
So somebody told them, yeah.
Yeah, so that was funny. You know what? It would be funny if they ever released that incident, because I'm sure it's on tape.
Oh, they tape everything, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the second opponent? Who was the second guy you wrestled? Do you remember?
I don't even know.
Oh,
all I know is they didn't have me wrestle. They didn't have me do anything the last day of the camp. I don't know if that was because they were afraid something was going to happen, or
yeah, like make sure this guy doesn't beat up anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also the other thing that happened, and it was funny. Before that match, I did a promo and Dusty Rhodes came out. This is why they said you ruined it all after the match, because like it could have gone any better. Dusty Rhodes came out of the control booth and he looked and he said it in front of everybody. He said, "That's how you do a promo." And he put me over in front of everybody. So that was before the match where it didn't end that well. But yeah.
Wow.
So I had his blessing too, I'm sure.
So you're getting Pat Patterson and Dusty's blessing.
Yeah. Because he didn't do that for anybody else.
Pretty impressive.
I saw that to come out and say, "Hey, that's how you do a promo."
So where do you end up, like during the Hep C and everything else? Like, where do you end up during that?
Well, I started off by doing the first treatment that was supposed to work. It didn't work. It had a lot of side effects. I lost a bunch of weight, got very sick. Didn't work. During this whole time, I ended up losing my real job too, like the main source of income, because I was working with developmentally delayed adults that like attack basically psychotic people in group homes. So when they found out I had it, I also got laid off from that job. So it was like I was back to like bouncing and basically cleaning a gym. So yeah, the first treatment didn't work. The only thing that really kept me going was I was able to compete in amateur wrestling and grappling because they stop matches if there's blood in those sports. You could still compete with Hep C. So I ended up during that time, I actually did win silver at the Olympic trials for the London Games. And that was just me focusing on amateur wrestling to keep myself from killing myself. And also leading up to that, the silver medal, which made me the alternate for the London, I also beat the guy that won the Canadian University Championships that year. So that was me training at an MMA place and in Ottawa, and my town doesn't have a university wrestling team. So I would commute to Montreal, train where George St. Pierre trains in wrestling at the Montreal Wrestling Club, and he was there at a lot of the practices, and also at TriStar MMA, they have a coach there, Doug Yeats, that is a 5-time Olympian for Canada in Greco-Roman wrestling. So I basically didn't even train with a real university wrestling team. And I went as an independent. I did not have masseuses. I would just grab whoever to coach me, and I still ended up doing well. So I was very proud of that accomplishment.
Pretty impressive. How come you didn't move on maybe to the Olympics? Was there no interest there?
Well, I thought about it, but I had to also get treated for my disease, and I ended up actually going through the treatment to get cured of Hep C once I knew. And by the way, I even won silver at the Olympic trials with a torn meniscus. I had tore my knee escaping a single leg takedown in one of the tournaments leading up to that, because I did tournaments for a year to prepare for that. But because I've been training so much, I didn't want to not do the Olympic trials, so I just taped it up. But no, once I realized I wasn't going to be going, I got the knee surgery, and I soon after was able to get on the second treatment for Hep C, which ended up curing me. And then I got back into pro wrestling.
When did you end up starting at GNW?
Great North Wrestling, I started back in 2007.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was around that long. Damn. Yeah. Wow.
I started promoting in 2004-ish for Stampede. I would do spot shows for them. Yeah, and then when Stu died, everything shut down in Calgary. Then I went to Puerto Rico. Then when I came back from Puerto Rico, I was back in Ontario because there wasn't anything going on in Calgary because Harry and TJ were in WWE by that point and they lost the Hard House. So that's when I came back to my area and started promoting. The first Great North Wrestling event was in August 2007 at the Ottawa Civic Center in front of 4,000 fans. It was actually the biggest crowd we ever had.
Wow. What was the main event?
It was Christian against PCO, against Jeff Jarrett, against AJ Styles in a 4-way.
Wow.
And PCO won. And Jinder Mahal was on that card. Randy Myers, who, as I said, went on to be Defy champion. I fought Abdullah on that card. Who else was on there? Sid fought Johnny Devine. Kamala fought Lanny Poffo. So looking back on it, it was a pretty crazy card, considering AJ went on to be a champion. Yeah.
Big time stacked. And Christian's in the news lately for just signing with AEW.
Yeah, he's making the news for sure this week, so I'm happy for him. But one interesting thing about that night, he did not want a job to PCO, so AJ Styles was the one mad enough to do it, and Jeff Jarrett didn't even want to wrestle. So he ended up just interfering in the match and a run-in for anyone wondering. But unfortunately for that event, Jeff Jarrett not wrestling at the time pissed a lot of people off. But he didn't want to wrestle. What the hell am I supposed to do?
Right.
And,
it's not your fault.
And Bret Hart was also supposed to be at that event. But he changed his flight and he ended up not making the show. So sadly, we had 4,000 for that first crowd. But even though Bret's no showing had nothing to do with me, I took all the heat for that, sadly enough. So it took us a while to get back to gaining all the fans' trust after that.
So after you're healed and everything, when does that happen for you? When does that kick in? And do you get invited back to WWE at all?
What happened was I went through a terrible treatment, 36 weeks of a drug called Insivec triple therapy, which was an experimental drug. And again, Billy Graham's doctor, my doctor, was telling me there wasn't going to be anything for like 7 years. And he was right. Now there is a new medication that's very easy compared to what I took. And it did take about 7 years to come out, and it worked. But for me, I, of course, was still obsessed with being a wrestler. I just wanted to get cured and be back into wrestling. So I was willing to take this experimental treatment that involved like bug under the skin type itching, insomnia where you would never sleep. And if you want to learn about going crazy, just stay up for weeks on end and see how crazy you go. And so many terrible side effects. And I started that in late 2012 into 2013. And I was declared cured in December 2013. And then I started wrestling again in May 2014. And only my third match back, I wrestled AJ Styles when he was New Japan champion for almost half an hour. And I pinned him twice, 2 times in one night. And only my third match.
I remember that, yeah.
And that match has over 100,000 views.
I remember that quite well. Quite an accomplishment, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, are you back on WWE's radar? Do they invite you back to the camps? Are you going to be in Tough Enough? Like, what's going on at that point?
what happened actually was I did do I had a match scouted by Jim Ross and Gerald Briscoe, who ended up getting me an NXT tryout. But the tryout was mysteriously canceled about 10 days before. That tryout was supposed to happen in 2016. Gerald Briscoe had seen me wrestle in Iowa, and I'd sent him my medical papers and everything. I got my whole itinerary for my tryout and everything. And then I got a message from someone I'd never heard of up in the office, like I think it was a week to 10 days before the camp, just saying you are no longer invited to the tryout. And it was at that point that I really totally gave up on ever going into WWE, because obviously someone has it out for me. If Gerald Briscoe, who discovered Brock Lesnar, is saying, hey, you in, and then you actually get in, they send you everything, all your information, and then you're suddenly out with no explanation why. So Gerald never even told, like he claimed that they never told him why, other than the official thing they said is they already have information on me. So whatever. It was then that I realized. Also, as you said, I did do a Tough Enough video for what was it, the 2015 one? Tough Enough? Would it have been?
I believe so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because it was before. That was one of the things that I had sent to Gerald Briscoe when I was on my way to getting the NXT tryout, because I actually had over 100,000 hits on that video, which was a lot compared to what the others has had. It wasn't the most, but I was in one of the top, and they actually aired a clip of it on SmackDown, but they never actually put me in the Tough Enough, which is interesting because the two people they signed from it never went anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my name is more famous in wrestling than theirs.
Yeah, literally, I have no idea what happened to them. Like, totally clueless.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, no, I did. I had some hope when they put my clip on SmackDown. I had some hope, like, okay, they showed me on SmackDown, because there was also an incident that's on YouTube that people could look up. It's on my channel, where they actually kicked me out of one of their shows. It was in 2012, I think. They actually had me thrown off the property of one of their shows, which was funny because the fans were enjoying me there.
Why did they throw you out?
They didn't like, the official reason was they didn't like that I was promoting myself.
Oh, okay.
On their property. But whatever. The fans enjoyed it, and actually all the fans knew who I was. So a lot of them were really happy to meet me, and I was happy to interact with them. And what happened was the first version of it got taken down, but the first version got me a huge amount of publicity. And I was even on the local radio in Ottawa the next day for getting thrown out. And the show that I promoted out of that ended up having 1,200 fans, which is really good for an independent show, because I got so much publicity of them throwing me off the property. And the funny thing is, I wasn't going to stay for the show anyways. Like, I was going to leave, and they threw me out right before the show started. And because they threw me out, I was able to get my parking refunded. So it's like I wouldn't have been on the radio. I would have had no video if you didn't throw me out. It's like you gave me the best gift by throwing me out because you made this into an incident.
Yep.
But yeah, I was a little concerned that at that point when I made that, I still had Hep C, and I was just like, fuck, I'm not getting it. I don't care what they do. But then when I got cured, I was like, okay, is that going to affect me or not? So who knows? Obviously, they do hold the grudge against me for whatever reason. So whatever. Yeah. But it worked out well for me. So yeah, I gave up then.
Yeah, and I wonder who it is like that's holding this grudge. Do you have any idea? It seems like somebody's got it out for you down at the high tower up there.
I don't know. I know. Whatever. I don't care, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm very happy with what I'm doing now, and as I said, that was almost good in 2016 because at that point, I think I had about 30,000 YouTube subscribers. I was just getting off the ground on YouTube, and it was like, am I going to go the YouTube way or am I going to go the wrestling way? And that was like, okay, plow through with the YouTube, and it's been a good decision.
Yeah, to say the least. Like I said, like hundreds of millions of views, 250,000 subscribers or whatever. I mean, it's just an
Yeah.
insane amount. Like wrestling, MMA, doing some UFO stuff. You always have good stuff on the channel. It's just. Are you surprised at all at the growth? Because it's insane.
Somebody actually pointed out to me the other day, and I haven't actually researched it yet, but I do believe it has more subscribers than any independent wrestling promotion in North America. So that's pretty cool. So I know Evolve only had like 25,000 subscribers, and WWE ended up buying them.
Yeah.
And they're going to even do an NXT spinoff out of Evolve. Hey, you should make
NXT
Great North
Light.
Wrestling a development territory. That would be a better use of your money.
Yeah, if you're getting that many views and that many eyes on it, Evolve wasn't getting hardly any eyes and any views on their
No.
stuff.
And they're doing an NXT Evolve, right? That's
Yeah,
what
I forget what they call it, NXT of NXT or something, or the NXT Light or whatever it is. Yeah,
it's strange though, but yeah, it's like that they signed a lot of people out of that company that failed. It's like, why are you signing people? I don't understand their scouting practices, to be perfectly honest with you. But I know SWE Fury here has good talent scouts and an
yes,
old school product, and I'm happy to be involved with them. I like what they're doing. It seems to be a true alternative, and getting to work with legends such as the Taskmaster himself, Kevin Sullivan, and Teddy Long, who I never realized I would become such good friends with. But he's a great guy, and I have a lot of respect for him.
good guy, yeah, for sure. Sullivan, obviously we both love Kevin, great guy. As far as Fury, though, what's like your role there, your job? What are you doing for them?
I am doing the podcast with James Beard every Tuesday night at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, which airs live on the Hannibal TV, as well as the SWE Fury YouTube channel. And we share a lot of content on our channels, and I help produce interviews for them. So, yes. I can also provide talent ideas here and there because they know that I am aware of a lot of the talent, so I can give them ideas. But they're great to be involved with, and I love working with them.
Seems such like old school. I know they do a little bit of new school too, but it seems so old school. Some of the stuff they do that I like that old school stuff. You know what I mean? It's what's missing a lot in today's wrestling for sure.
Yes, they're bringing wrestling back, and I think Charlie Haas is a great champion because he is a real wrestler and he's a real tough guy, and he's not like a corporate guy, and he's a great father too to his kids. I've met 3 of his kids, and I think some of them might actually end up getting into the business for sure. And Lacey Von Erich, she might be becoming a regular with SWE, and actually she might be getting into the podcasting as well. So who knows? That would be cool. I like to see Texas wrestling coming back. There's even going to be a new Texas champion called the Lone Star Champion, decided on the March 20th SWE Fury event at the Canton Civic Center. And James Beard announced earlier tonight, he is one of the matchmakers, that there's going to be a battle royal, and the last 2 wrestlers in the battle royal are then going to meet to be who's going to be the champion. Yeah, so it's going to be
Nice.
interesting. I'm pretty sure Gangrel is going to be involved in that. They do have former NWA champion Jax Dane on their roster. Davey Boy Smith Jr. is going to be on that show. Lots of rumors about him in WWE. Who knows what's going on there? Miranda Gordy just had a WWE tryout. Their women's
wow.
division is great. Christy James is the champion, and
Love her. Yes. Yep.
yeah. Rosemary, she was on the last event. She's coming back. Melina is involved with SWE. So many great people involved. And I'm sure as the COVID restrictions loosen, it's only going to get bigger and better.
Seems like the ratings were doing good. I know Kevin told me they were doing better ratings than Impact. So I was like, well, okay, it's pretty good.
I think the thing is, it's viewership. If you actually add up the viewership of all their syndication, because they're syndicated everywhere,
Oh, right.
tons of places. If you add up the viewership of people that watch it on TV every week, their syndication viewership supposedly is more than Impact's, from what I understand. So that's pretty cool. And I know on the SWE YouTube channel, the episode from last week where Selena De La Renta made her debut managing the Blood Hunter, who's got to be my favorite wrestler of the new school today.
Me too. Yeah.
Very Violet's guy. Reminds me actually a little bit of Kevin Sullivan. But yeah, for that debut, their channel is just starting out. It has 3,000 subscribers, but they had 30,000 views on last week's episode. But it also airs on the Hannibal TV and tons of other platforms beyond just all the syndication, but they're on the CW network, Action TV. They're even on some ABC networks, and they're working on some international syndication as well. So
yeah, they're doing really well. I'm very happy just because I love that old school flavor. But you're mentioning your YouTube channel, and you said you got Steve Kern coming up. I know you have Kurt Angle coming up as well.
Yes, yeah, in April, Kurt Angle. That one should be interesting. Did you do yours with Kurt Angle yet?
Yes, it was last Friday. I didn't release it yet. I just put out a little teaser picture. That's how I knew when everyone said he was the surprise guy. For that Christian ended up being. That's how I knew he wasn't, because
He had told you.
I didn't ask him, but he basically said Shaq texted him and said something about AEW, and he basically wasn't very aware of what was going on that Sunday. So I was like, oh yeah, there's the surprise guy. You're supposedly the guy. You're like, oh, I didn't even know. So I was like, okay, it's obviously not you then.
Well, one thing I'm happy about is I don't think you're going to see an exploding match in SWE Fury.
Oh, that was horrible. That was embarrassing.
I still don't get it. If you know the bomb's going to come off, why do you cover your opponent? Don't you want him to get blown up? Wouldn't you take him and throw him into the bomb?
No, that Eddie Kingston did that. Who was he was trying to be his friend. I guess he was turning face, and he was trying to cover him up. So I don't know. He just looks even worse doing that, because obviously it went off like the sparklers or whatever. I mean, it was nothing. So he looked even worse selling it afterwards. It's like, oh man, you buried yourself right there.
Yeah, I don't watch AEW. I don't want to bother, but I do like Eddie Kingston. I did meet him at the PCW Ultra event that I covered about a year ago, and he is a viewer of the Hannibal TV, and I do like him, and I'm happy to hear that he has a job. I just am not a fan of their product. That doesn't mean that, just for you fans out there, I don't hate anyone in AEW other than maybe Dustin and Cody. Those might be the only two people well, maybe Cody I just don't have any respect for. Dustin I actually hate.
Wow, why do you hate Dustin? Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, I've said this before a million times. He ripped me and a promoter in Edmonton off, demanding his full pay in advance, and his flight from Jacksonville to Alberta was huge, and swearing to God that he needed the second half because he couldn't afford to get in a cab or to even get on the airplane. And then he actually killed the town, because we went back to the same town the following year. And, everyone was excited about seeing Goldust, and he no-showed. So again, the company suffers, and I never even went back to that town ever again because we had such a small crowd. The next year, I lost a fortune. So yeah, I hold a grudge. Whenever I see him acting like he's a saint, it's like, no, I don't like you. He can pay me my money back.
Right.
I'll call it even. He's making a lot now.
Oh, yeah.
Pay me money back. Hell, you know what? Just pay me the 800, my half. The other promoter, I don't care. I don't even talk to him anymore. Forget about the flight. Just pay me $800 cash, and I won't hate you anymore. And be a man. That's all I'd be happy about that.
I know you're very busy, and before we let you go, just real quick, few questions. Favorite interview you've done on Hannibal TV?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll have to say Paul Hellyer, the Honorable Paul Hellyer, just because he's the highest ranking person I've ever talked to. That's a UFO related interview. He was the backup prime minister, and he's the highest military official to ever go on record talking openly about UFOs. So I'll have to say him.
Who's the worst, least favorite?
Juventud Guerrera, as we've discussed.
Yes. I thought you might say him. Yes.
And and I'll say it again. He was rude. He made me wait around for it. Acting like he's a saint. Definitely coming out of the bathroom, rubbing his nose before the interview. I don't know what was going on in there. Maybe he was not used to Canadian weather, getting the sniffles. I don't know. And then not doing his time that he was paid for, not doing even an hour. And why do a shoot interview if you're going to, every question that you're asked that the fans want to know, oh, I'm so positive. I just want to be positive energy, blah, blah, blah. Tell me that. And don't take the money for the shoot interview. And you're not positive. You've been a dick.
Yep.
Anyways.
So who was the most popular interview?
The Honky Tonk Man I believe the Honky Tonk Man interview is the most watched shoot interview on the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well over 3 million. Well over 3 million views.
Nice.
And it's 3 hours.
Nice. He's great. I know a lot of people may say not, but he's great. I love the Honky Tonk Man.
There's a lot of content with the Honky Tonk Man and I on the Hannibal TV. If you search up the Hannibal TV,
oh yeah,
we've had some adventures. I actually did communicate with him when I was in Phoenix. I won't give up on him, guys. I'll stay on him.
Yes.
But I don't know if it's because he's back on good terms with WWE. He doesn't want to ruffle any feathers, but he claims he wants nothing to do with wrestling. He doesn't even want to talk about it. It annoys him to even, he says he doesn't want to talk about wrestling whatsoever. So he's moved on from it.
Wow, I'm shocked about that. And what do you got kind of coming up? I know Kurt Angle, obviously Steve Keirn. That's two awesome ones right there. What else you got coming up?
I'm flying by the seat of my pants, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm training extremely hard out here. Slick is one that I'll be doing soon.
Oh, awesome.
Brian Diaz. Am I saying his last name right?
Yes.
Well, I'm out here. I'm going to work on getting Iceman Parsons. Who's the famous announcer from out here?
Mark Lawrence.
Yeah, and there's another. Who is the TV show host?
Was it Billy Mercer? I'm trying to think. Who else you might. Oh, you might be getting David Manning.
Oh yeah, him, David the referee, right?
Yep.
I might try and get him. Who knows? I'm going to be out here a while. I'm going to be I'd like to get Ahmed Johnson, to be honest, while I'm out here. I know you've interviewed him.
Yeah, and he looks like he's doing interviews again. I've seen him pop up once in a while.
Well, you know what? I know the fans want me to get Ahmed Johnson. I'm going to try and get that. And other than that, I'm training a lot and trying to get into the best shape of my life and enjoying being out of the cold weather.
Nice. Please, before we let you go, give us all the plugs for Hannibal TV and everything else.
Well, the Hannibal TV, we also stream all of our live streams on Facebook at the Hannibal TV, Twitter and Instagram. We're at the Hannibal TV, and we post a lot of videos on Instagram too. And I am on Twitter at Devon, Devon, Hannibal, Hannibal. And if you DM me, I will follow you back. There is also the Hannibal TV on Facebook. All of our links are at thehannibaltv.com. We even have a merchandise store link at thehannibaltv.com. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Hannibal TV, because it has a lot of John Poz content. And the fans actually at first were a bit resistant to him, but now they seem very accepting of you. So
yes, I like
congratulations,
that.
they like you now.
Yes,
but
unlike Rick. Unlike Rick.
Rick, they've even toned down on Rick.
Oh, good.
He was the big. As I said this on another one of your podcasts, but my favorite thing about Rick was when he did the follow-up interview with the whole reason to be less of a heel, and he ended up getting like double to triple the heat of the first interview.
Yep.
Of the second one. So I would like to see him, while he's looking in shape, he's actually bigger than a lot of the AEW guys.
Yeah.
Maybe he should become a wrestling heel. And I would love to see Vince Russo appear in SWE in the future. That would be an interesting mix, because I don't think the Texas fans would like him too much.
Hell no, but yeah, it would be great though. He's a great on-air personality, so I think he'd be great.
I agree. I would like to see that. I'll keep my fingers crossed for it for 2021.
Nice. Thank you so much for giving me all the time. I know you are a busy man, so thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Make sure to follow us on the Hannibal TV. Thank you to all the fans for supporting me and allowing me to live my dream, a new dream of being a combat sports reporter.
All right. Thank you so much, Hannibal. You are the man.